Spooky friends. We are thrilled that you chose to spend another Friday with us and honored that you made sure not to miss our latest episode. Each episode of the MurderMurder.news podcast also serves as a weekly meeting for our very own true crime cult.
But not to worry, you've landed in the cult with all the flower crowns and none of the flavor aid. Take a seat around the fire, cuddle up to a baby goat, and get ready as we dig into true crime history and pull up another frightening tale of murder.
If you're just finding us now, allow us to introduce ourselves, your charismatic leaders. I'm Angelina, and I'm here with my sinister sister, Aurora. How's it going?
Happy to be here. How about you?
Same. Still going on. It's March, apparently.
So we've been told.
Yes.
But we are still accepting pledges to the MMN commune, and it's easier than ever to join our blossoming true crime community. Just head over to patreon.com/MurderMurder.news and sign up for just a few bucks a month. Your support helps keep the true crime lights on, and to show you how much we appreciate it, we'll give you your own fancy title like Grandmaster of Goats, a shout out on the show, and you'll have exclusive access to our regular patron-only content.
Before we dig in, we want to offer a quick disclaimer. Though we joke about forming a true crime cult, that is not to diminish the severity of actual cult activity, and we want you to know that we take the cases we're discussing very seriously.
We want to deliver each story with the utmost respect to victims and anyone involved. If you feel we've missed the mark, you don't like our tone, or if you notice we've gotten any details wrong, let us know with a quick email to murdermurdernews@gmail.com and we'll make it right. Some specific trigger warnings for this episode include NB-phobia, homophobia, gun violence, torture, and sexual assault. So if any of those are particularly sensitive subjects for you, you may want to skip this one and listen to one of our other episodes instead. 7 years ago this week, 16-year-old Kedarie Johnson was murdered in what many believe was a hate crime. 11 years earlier, Kedarie's mother, Katrina, had moved her 3 children from Chicago, Illinois to Burlington, Iowa in search of a safe, quiet place to raise her family. Kedari was gender nonconforming and non-binary and was occasionally bullied in school and online for wearing feminine expressing clothing and sometimes using the name Candace. That escalated when Kedari was found tortured and murdered by 2 cisgender men. Our sources for today include fellow Darkcast podcaster, A Hateful Homicide. Definitely give her episode a listen because she was so helpful in us telling Kedarie's story. Our other sources include True Life Crime and several articles in Des Moines Register written by Courtney Crowder, who tirelessly followed Kedarie's case. For a full list of our sources, be sure to check out our show notes.
We want to start out by giving an extra disclaimer on Kedarie's pronouns. We mentioned that Kedarie was gender nonconforming and non-binary, but being that Kedarie was only 16 and living in an era where pronouns were not widely discussed, it's a little difficult to discern what pronouns would have felt most comfortable in 2023. We know that Kedarie's family uses he/him pronouns and have mentioned that offline, Kedarie was comfortable using he/him when going by Kedarie. When using the name Candace, she/her pronouns seem to feel like a better fit. On some of Kedarie's social media profiles, he/him was used, and on some, they/them was used. Unfortunately, we can't know what pronouns Kedarie would be using today, but after giving this a lot of thought and talking to a couple of people from the queer true crime community who are familiar with Kedarie's case, we believe they/them would have been the most respectful of their identity. Kedarie was born on July 5th, 1999, in Chicago, Illinois, to parents Ivan Parker and Katrina Johnson. Their mother, Katrina, has said Kedarie was born with a smile. They had an electric personality and planned on being famous one day.
With 3 kids, Katrina struggled financially. At times, the young family was unhoused, and with rising crime in Chicago, she wanted to provide a safer, better life for her children. In 2001, she moved Kedarie, their brother Cedric, and sister Nija to the small town of Burlington, Iowa. The population at the time was only 25,000. The city sits along the Mississippi River and is known for its historic Snake Alley, a seemingly needlessly windy road built in 1894. It's cute, though. After moving to Burlington, times were tough for the Johnsons. Katrina lost her job and temporarily lived in a hotel with Kedari, while Cedric stayed with a local pastor and Nigel went to stay with family in Chicago. Kedari loved their family and was determined to help support them in any way they could. They worked at a Taco Bell while in high school to help get their mom back on her feet and into an apartment. Friends of Kedari said they were so close to their mom that the two felt more like friends than mother and child. Their friend Ash remembers she once saw Kedari riding home on their bike one morning while balancing 2 big bags from McDonald's. They were excited, and when Ash asked what was going on, they told her they had just gotten their first paycheck and they were going to surprise their family with a big breakfast.
Even with financial troubles, Kedari shone. They loved dancing, listening to music, and doing their hair. Kedari loved dancing at the Maple Leaf Center, a church community center that offers after-school programs, homework help, and more to kids. They loved dancing so much that they could often be spotted taking off their shoes and dancing through the hallways at school, occasionally landing them into detention. They also had a love of fashion and had thought about becoming a stylist. Kedari's school counselor, Shanda Campbell, has said Kedari didn't have a mean bone in their body. Their brother Cedric described a time Kedari took the fall for him. Cedric had gone to a store after having a craving for a Twix bar. When he realized he didn't have the money for it, he attempted to steal it, but was noticed by security. He took off running towards home and almost outran a police officer, but she saw the house he went into. When the officer approached the house, Cedric blamed it on Kedari, and they were punished as a result. Kedari had to sit in timeout, but didn't even know what they were being punished for. They could have been upset with Cedric, but instead, they shared their potato chips with him and just let it go. They were just like that, forgiving and friendly to everyone.
Of Kedari's gender identity, Katrina has said they were drawn to feminine toys and games as a kid. They preferred dolls over playing ball. As they got older, Kedari had begun wearing female-presenting clothing and wore their hair in long braids. They sometimes adopted the name Candace and would ask friends and family to use the name at times. Kedari was open about being gender nonconforming with those closest to them and would sometimes date boys and would sometimes date girls. Their pastor, Nathan Williams, said of Kedari, at 16, they were on the cusp of figuring themselves out. Growing up in a small town without access to an LGBTQIA+ community can be a challenge for a queer kid, and Kedari had been bullied at times. Friends said they had a big personality and didn't mind defending themselves. Cedric, their brother, recalled a time friends of Kedari had told a boy they liked that they were interested in him. The boy got upset and came up and punched Kedari in the jaw. They were bleeding everywhere.
Online, Kedari also seemed to have a bully, an account named Nathaniel Jones, who would post things like, "bitch," or "I'm gonna beat you up." At other times, the profile would call Kedari bae and use heart eye emojis. When friends asked who this Nathaniel was, Kedari said it was their online boyfriend. No one seemed to know who was behind this mysterious account. On Wednesday, March 2nd, 2006, Kedari was home from school on a 2-day suspension. They were not a troublemaker, but they did always dance to the beat of their own drum, often quite literally, which seemed to upset some of the teachers who were apparently anti-twerking. Sometimes it was dancing down the hall, sometimes being a little sassy with teachers, and sometimes it was just putting on makeup in the bathroom when they should have been in class. The suspension seemed to be an accumulation of little acts of independence, but nonetheless, their school counselor, Shanda, knew the young extrovert would be struggling to stay home alone.
Shanda has suggested checking out a clothing expo at a local auditorium. Shanda thought Kedari could possibly get paid to help out and work at the expo for a couple of days, which would be great for their love of fashion and help them earn a little extra money. The plan was for the two of them to head back to the expo on Thursday and spend some of the money Kedari had made the day before. On the afternoon of March 2nd, Kedari hung out with their good friend Tramel. Around 7 p.m., the two headed to Hy-Vee, a supermarket, to use the Wi-Fi. Security videos captured Kedari and Trammell at Hy-Vee over the next couple of hours. They sat at the deli and worked on homework and occasionally walked around the store. At 8:52, Kedari can be seen leaving the grocery with Trammell, who had a 9 p.m. curfew, to walk in part of the way home. Kedari came back a few minutes later with their backpack and computer and went back to work at the deli. Around 9 p.m., Kedari was on their Candace profile on Facebook. They had what appeared to be an argument with someone using Nathaniel Jones again. Candace wrote, "Calm down," on Nathaniel's profile.
At 10:02, they called their mom to check in. Their mom told them to come home, and they said they might stop at the Hy-Vee near their apartment to use the internet there quickly. The last thing they said to their mom was, "See you later, Ma, I love you." Security cameras captured the phone call and Kedari leaving Hy-Vee to head towards their friend Amari's apartment at 10:04 p.m. The security cameras then show a red Impala pull up behind Kedari and follow them. Kedari was heading to Amari's to pick up a couple of bras she was giving to them. It was only 2 blocks from Hy-Vee, but when they got to Amari's, they were freaked out about the car following them. They told Amari someone named Lumney had been following them in a red car. Amari looked out her window and saw the car parked illegally in front of her house with its headlights on. Amari didn't know who Lumney was, but was concerned enough for Kedari's safety that she offered to drive them home. Kedari said they would just walk home, and the two hung out for 15 to 20 minutes. They often hung out together watching Netflix and doing their hair and nails. While there, Kedari tried on bras and ultimately ended up wearing a white one Amari had given them. Kedari left smiling, excited for their new bras. The walk to their house was only 4 to 5 blocks, but Kedari would never be seen alive again.
Between 11:25 to 11:30 p.m., around an hour after Kedari left Amari's house, 911 received multiple phone calls reporting gunshots in the vicinity of East Walnut Alley. As officers responded to the scene, they noticed the smell of bleach before spotting the body of Kedari. A black trash bag with pink handles had been tied over Kedari's head, with evidence they had tried to claw the bag off in an attempt for air. Their arms were raised over their head with their shirt pushed up and the new white bra from Amari exposed. A bloody white t-shirt had been wrapped around their mouth and chin, and a second black trash bag had been forced into their mouth as a gag. Kedari wore leggings, which had been pulled down, exposing their genitals, with a bottle of bleach lying between their legs. That bleach had been doused on their leggings, shirt, and socks, and was believed to have been used in an attempt to destroy DNA evidence. They were wearing socks, but no shoes. Kedari had been shot twice, once through the chest through the left bra cup, which went through their heart, and once in the abdomen. There was evidence of a possible sexual assault. Though Kedari had signs of asphyxia, they ultimately died from the gunshot wounds, not asphyxiation.
Between the sighting of the red Impala by Amari and the security videos the night of Kedari's murder, investigators were quickly able to piece together who was responsible for the teen's brutal death. Kedari had mentioned to Amari that they believed they were being followed by someone named Lumney, who pretty much everyone in the community knew. Lumney was a nickname for 23-year-old Jorge Galvez Sanders. Cedric, Kedari's brother, had seen him around town playing basketball, and he was often spotted around the Maple Leaf Center where Kedari would hang out after school. Lumney could be seen pulling up to the Hy-Vee with a friend, 26-year-old West Jaron Perham, in a red Impala at 9:41 p.m., which was a time when Kedari would have been at the grocery working on homework. Lumney and West are never seen on camera interacting with Kedari, though there were areas in the store the cameras were unable to spot.
At 10:03 p.m., Lumney and West were spotted leaving the Hy-Vee at the same time Kedari coincidentally left to head to Amari's. They can be seen on surveillance video looking in Kedari's direction. At 10:04, there is video of the Impala pulling up behind Kedari, and we know Kedari did safely make it to Amari's house at that time. The testimony from Amari combined with the security footage was enough evidence for police to secure a warrant on March 10th for 2610 Madison, a home about 2 miles from Hy-Vee where Lumney and West were known to stay. Inside, they found Kedari's high school ID inside of their backpack, their missing shoes, and a box of black trash bags with pink handles, the same found at the crime scene. They also collected ammunition, a fingernail, sheets, and a condom believed to be tied to Kedari's murder. Lumney's phone was able to be traced to a location near the alley where Kedari was shot shortly before the 911 calls were placed. Lumney and West were not at the house and had been rumored to skip town.
There was also a search warrant for the red Impala, which police spotted in Florissant, Missouri a few days later. Police attempted to pull the vehicle over, which led to a high-speed chase. Ultimately, the Impala crashed into a police car with West inside. He was accompanied by a woman and her small child. He took off on foot, but police caught up with him. A gun was found in the car with his fingerprints, and this was the gun believed to be used in Kedari's murder. He was arrested and initially denied knowing Kedari. He later admitted to picking Kedari up with Lumney. He referred to Kedari as she and said they spotted Kedari at Hy-Vee. He said they talked to Kedari and they got into the back seat and didn't say much. According to him, Lumney and Kedari dropped him off at a friend's house and presumably drove off together to have sex. Police knew Lumney and West, who were cousins, would often bring women back to the house to have sex with them and do drugs, apparently very comfortable having sex in front of each other. On April 12th, police finally tracked down and arrested Lumney in Kirkwood, Missouri. He denied knowing Kedari and said West dropped him off at the house and he hung out alone that night. Yet, Lumney's phone told a different story. He first did a search for Kedari's murder at 4 a.m., hours after their murder. He searched for things like Burlington, Iowa shooting and clicked on articles about Kedari's murder and investigation.
And as to knowing Kedari, Lumney was friends with Kedari's Candace Facebook account, and the two were in a group chat together. Kedari's family and friends are unsure if the two had ever met up in person or just knew each other from living in the same town. There were no personal chats or interactions between the two on social media. Some have speculated that the Nathaniel Jones account could have belonged to Lumney, but it sounds like that really is just speculation. Lumney and West had conflicting accounts of what happened that night, but the Department of Justice got involved after Lumney repeatedly used a homophobic slur to describe Kedari. Prosecutors believe that the motive behind their murder was related to their gender expression and theorized that Lumney and West had initially wanted to pick up Kedari, believing they were assigned female at birth, and got angry when they realized Kedari was not. Killing someone based on their gender identity sure sounds like a hate crime, but unfortunately in Iowa, the hate crime bill does not provide protections for gender identity. Lumney and West were not charged with a hate crime.
They were both charged with first-degree murder. On December 18, 2017, Lumney was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On November 19, 2018, West was also sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Katrina, Kedari's mom, was unsatisfied with the sentencing. Here's her victim impact statement as read by the court.
Your Honor, my son, Kedarie Johnson, was a loving son, brother, grandson, nephew, and cousin. He was very compassionate and caring. He had an infectious smile. Kedari could walk into a dull room, and it would be filled with light and joy. His personality was amazing. So for my two other children, Cedric and Nigel, as well as myself and other family members, to deal with this is wrong. Kedari was robbed and deprived of his life. He was still a baby. My loving baby, who still has his whole life ahead of him, and from March 2nd, 2016, until I take my last breath, I will forever have a deep hole in my heart. His birthday and every special holiday, it doesn't even have to be either one of those days, but just to wake up and not see his face, his smile, or hear his laugh, I could never hear him say, "I love you, Mom," ever again. Who would have ever thought his "see you later" actually meant, see you later. No one knows what it feels like to not sleep. It's coming up on 2 years that Kedari has been gone. All I have left of him is his ashes, pictures, and videos. That still doesn't make it better. No punishment can ever bring back my son, because it won't be enough. Even though George Sanders Galvez will spend the rest of his life behind bars, at least he still has the rest of his life. He will be able to have visits from his family, see pictures of his son growing up, and will be able to share in the life experiences that his family celebrates. I only have memories of my son. I do hope he gets the punishment he deserves and rots in hell. Thank you, Kedarie Johnson, the proud mother of Kedarie Johnson.
Kedari's family, along with prosecutors in their case, are disappointed that there are still no laws at a federal level or state level protecting gender identity. That is incredibly sad. And the worst thing about, I think, the fact that there aren't laws specifically addressing that, it seems like people then take those things less seriously, you know, and like they're treating this victim as less than human. Like just the people who are watching on Patreon have seen the video, whereas you on the podcast side are just hearing the audio. But in the video, they were focused a lot on the suspect, the perpetrator. And he was looking bored and like just unaffected.
He's rolling his eyes at point, just completely does not care. Like just absolutely does not care about what he did. Absolutely.
And I think it would be taken a lot more seriously, and like just it would come across a different way if there were specific laws protecting gender identity. To like it would sink in what exactly this person had done, and you know what exactly has been lost. And I think it's not. I don't know. There's something missing.
Yeah, I agree. And this is such a great example, you know, like it sets a precedent to families that like your loved one matters, like that this was done out of hate. This wasn't like a crime of passion or just a random act. Like this was done in a moment of hate. And I think that would have meant so much to Katrina to have gotten that conviction. And I know that she has worked with Idaho legislators to work on hate crime bills to include gender identity. So
that's good, because I think what I feel is that without that in place, the perpetrator feels like they're somehow justified. Like, you know, the gay panic defense, for example, like just this kind of a thing where if they think, oh, I expected to find, you know, certain genitals and found others, like, is that a good reason to murder?
That's exactly what his defense team attempted in this situation. Absolutely.
Right. Which is not acceptable in any capacity. And I think if the law was written a little differently to take that in mind, then they wouldn't feel like they had that justification.
Absolutely.
Ugh. So what are you watching this week?
You know, I like things have just been in this like state of chaos for me. So I have been watching more palate cleansey sorts of shows.
Cool.
And honestly, the only thing I've watched in the past week has been Love Island.
Oh.
Which is the worst of the trash.
The worst reality show?
No, I mean, it's probably on par with like the other trash I watch, honestly.
Right.
But it's pretty bad. And it's like a British show, and they like just make more episodes per season than American shows. Like now the average, because of like Netflix coming in and putting all their budget into 10 episodes, usually you're like used to getting like short seasons, like 10 to 15 episodes. I think I'm on episode like 37.
Oh yeah.
And like there's like over 40. And I'm like, I just want it to be over. Like,
that's so funny. It's like it used to be like that in America as well. Because like when I watch old shows, like when I'm rewatching, you know, Cheers, it'll be like episode 34 of this season, and like they never do that anymore, which is really frustrating. And in way, like it's you don't want 37 episodes, but you also don't want 6. Like,
I want
feel
37 episodes of Schitt's Creek. I do not want 37 episodes of Love Island.
Of Love Island, no.
Like, I need resolution. Like, I'm engaged. It's not like I'm bored, but I'm like, I feel like I'm spending every day with these people. And it's like going on a vacation and like you love your friends at the beginning. And by the end of it, it's like,
you want to go
time
home.
to go home now. Goodbye. And like, it's feeling like that. Like, please, Love Island, go home. Like, please get out of my mind. I need you to end.
I love that. That's so funny.
It's okay. It's it's very entertaining, but I don't recommend getting yourself into it. If I would have known how many episodes it had, I might not have gone down this road. But how about you? What are you watching?
Well, I started watching this series about the Wu-Tang Clan, which is interesting. It's called Wu-Tang: An American Saga. Oh. It's on Disney Plus. It's a dramatization. So it's just like a dramatic series with actors and such, but it's really in depth and very. It's just shocking to think of the background that these people came from and their lifestyles growing up, and even as they were sort of up and coming artists. I'm shocked at the crime and the violence and murder going on all around them every day, and that they still found it. Like they were still interested in music and still wanted to go and do shows and like record albums and like still wanted to push for that no matter how many people they lost around them, or no matter how much weird drama pushed them out of different towns and whatever, out of different relationships. I think it's just pretty astounding, because I think these days like gangster rappers are like coming from wealthy backgrounds and they're making fake raps that really don't speak to the life they live, but this is like the real stuff. The OGs. Yeah,
it was definitely like a very good era, like much more political, I would say.
Oh, and yeah.
Like I would probably say probably the average rapper did not come from like wealth now, but it's certainly much less political. Like it's more about like making dancey, cute music, which is like which is fine. Like we all need that. We all need a break from sometimes like the bad things that are really happening. But it was such a great era for music for sure.
It really was. That's definitely my favorite for like rap and hip hop was the 90s. But I guess I was thinking specifically of people like, because I was like, how does this compare to like the story of Drake coming up, who's like from Toronto? Oh. And it's like Drake was like just like, regular Toronto upper middle class family. Like he was an actor.
He's
like I'm just picturing that
special circumstance, but
I'm sure he is.
I think he's like a one-off on that.
I feel like the super famous flashy people, like when they're rapping kind of gangster rap style, it comes off as phony coming out these days, I'm sure there's definitely a lot of people that come from rough backgrounds, but I guess
I would say most. Like I really love rap, and like most are not Drake, and like most I think are like very talented. Like I really enjoy like modern music and like whatever, but most definitely came from tough backgrounds even today, but the music is just more dancey. Drake is a disaster, and I think probably a predator. So,
and even still, I mean, like even thinking, a lot of folks come from rough backgrounds. I gotta hope that most of it doesn't compare to this, because it's just wild. Like so many murders and so many like just I don't know. While still kind of starting to get known for your music, just having to resort to crime and things like that, and still having no way out of those groups of people that are just like threatening your life, no matter who you're becoming and no matter, what music you're making and who's discovering you. It's just so
I would love to hear more of those stories for sure. I think that's a good point. Like, I think we don't know. I think like being like two white women living in kind of like middle class, like whatever, like there's still a lot that we don't know.
For sure.
But like the problem is that we don't give funding to tell those stories. And it's like, I would love to hear more of, like what is really happening behind the scenes for a lot of musicians and such. I think that'd be great because this sounds awesome and I want to watch that.
Yeah, it's really super good and would definitely recommend it. And I would like to see more of that too. And like, I think it is a really sort of untapped area where it's like the I remember finding a podcast recently, which I used as a source for one of my recent stories. And the podcast was focusing on the intersection of crime and music. And that's fascinating. Of course, they're all over the place because you're going from like, the stories of all time. So there's a lot of things to touch on, and there's a lot of more and less famous stories. But I'd love to see more in the form of like documentaries on that.
Yeah, remember when MTV used to make those little like mini documentaries?
Yeah, behind the music.
Yes. I love those.
Good. Yeah.
Let's bring that back.
Yeah, totally
Maybe
agree.
It's already here. I don't know. I don't watch MTV. I don't have
cable. Who knows? Who knows what's happening on cable? Yeah. They've got all this stuff that we're bitching about, and they're like, hello, just get cable, and you have every show you've been asking for. Turn on the
TV.
Yeah. But,
go to mtv.com.
Right. But as an aside, I have also been listening to nothing but 90s hip hop since we started watching this, because all those songs get stuck in my head and I am loving it. That's
amazing.
It's a fun week.
Yeah, very good stuff. I love 90s hip hop.
Well, I guess that's enough murder for 1 week. If you need more, make sure to bookmark MurderMurder.news to stay up to date with the latest breaking true crime stories all week, every week.
And please follow us on Instagram at MurderMurder.news, on Twitter at MurderNews, on TikTok at MurderMurder.news, and on Facebook, you can find us just by searching for MurderMurder.news.
And while you're there, you can also join our Facebook group, which will also pop up when you search for MurderMurder.news. Group members can look under the Events tab to find all the info you need about any upcoming events, including our monthly book club meetings. This month, we're reading The End of Policing by Alex S. Vitale, and we can't wait to chat about it with you on Zoom Sunday, March 26th.
If you like what you've been hearing each week on the podcast, let us know by leaving our show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And make sure to subscribe to the show on your preferred podcast platform so you never miss an episode.
See you next Friday.
Bye, spooky friends.